Good afternoon, everybody. Anthony Aniano here from Rotoballer Radio and Rotoballer.com with the top 5 wide receiver waiver ads for Week 6 of your fantasy football season. Folks, as always, recording this Sunday evening before the Sunday night and Monday night game, so things can change a little bit between now and the time you get to watch this, using Yahoo roster percentages as our talking point to guide us through this video. Keep in mind, Week 6 buys include the Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, Texans, Brandon Cooks, Las Vegas Raiders, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, who's been injured, and the Tennessee Titans, Robert Woods, all on a bye for Week 6. At number 5, the number 5 ad at the wide receiver position this week, Rondale Moore of the Arizona Cardinals. Nice little coming out for him this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Targeted 8 times, 7 receptions for 68 yards. He's got 12 targets in his last 2 games, finishes with 13.8 fantasy points. Lost 7 yards on a rushing attempt. Actually knocked his fantasy points down a little bit. Arizona on the road next week against Seattle. I have him at 5. You can move him up over my number 4, actually. I have number 4, Randall Cobb. Totally justifiable to say Randall Cobb is your number 5. He's your desperation ad. And Rondale Moore sits at number 4. Randall Cobb was a target monster Sunday morning for the Green Bay Packers. 13 targets, tough to ignore that number. 7 catches, 99 yards, 16.9 fantasy points, as Romeo Doubs and other receivers in Green Bay were kind of shut down in the Giants' upset of the Packers. Randall Cobb only 3% rostered, so he's available just about everywhere you look. Good matchup next week for Green Bay to rebound against the New York Jets. At number 3, George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 55% roster. A little high normally for this, but wanted to mention him again. As with Kenny Pickens at the helm for the Steelers, he looks for Pickens and looks for him often. This week, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 83 yards, 14.3 fantasy points. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been targeted 14 times, 12 receptions for 185 yards, a combined 30.5 fantasy points. Tough matchup next week against that Tampa Bay defense, but George Pickens remaining a target monster for Kenny Pickett under center. At number 2, Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. I mentioned him last week as well. He's only 8% rostered. Thursday night, he was targeted 9 times, 8 receptions for 81 yards, 16.1 PPR fantasy points. Great matchup next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In his last 2 games, he's been targeted 15 times, 12 receptions, and 161 yards, 28 fantasy points over those last 2 games. And the number 1 ad this week at the wide receiver position, Jacoby Myers of the New England Patriots. Comes back from injury. 7 receptions on 8 targets, 111 yards, and a touchdown, playing with the 3rd-string Patriots quarterback. 24.1 fantasy points. In the 3 games he's played this week, he's got 10 or more fantasy points in each one of those games. He has been extremely consistent, very reliable for the Patriots and for your fantasy team against the Cleveland Browns next week. Diami Brown misses the list strictly because with Washington, Jahan Dotson was out, which elevated Brown. Need to see what happens with Dotson back in the lineup before I go and investing in Diami Brown, who had that 2-touchdown game, but he's still nonetheless number 4 on the Washington Commander depth chart at the wide receiver position. So to recap, at the wide receiver position for Week 6 waiver wire, at number 5, some would say number 4, Rondale Moore of the Arizona Cardinals. At number 4, Randall Cobb, some would say drop him to 5. At number 3, George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2, Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. And the number 1 ad at the wide receiver position for Week 6 is Jacoby Myers of the New England Patriots. All right, everybody, make sure you like right here the Rotoballer YouTube channel. Check out all the great waiver wire content. Head over to rotoballer.com, sign up for the premium pass using the promotional code ACES. Save yourself 10% at discount and get all sorts of great stuff, including the team sync tools, lineup optimizers, and tons of waiver wire content. Give me a follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy, and good luck working that waiver wire. And we'll see you next time right here on Rotoballer Radio.